Hey guys, we've got another Battle City deck profile. Today's profile is Ishizu Ishtar's coming up. Ishizu Ishtar's deck is quite interesting, but let's get straight into it, shall we? We'll start off with the 3 copies of Agido that I run in the profile. So Agido has 1500 attack, 1300 defense, fairy effect monster. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard as a result of battle, you roll a 6-sided die. You can special summon 1 fairy type monster from your graveyard whose level is equal to the number rolled. So in Ishizu Ishtar's deck, her only lot of monsters are 4-star, so we have to roll a 4 to get that effect to work. Next up, I run 3 copies of a very useful monster in Kalbik. Kalbik is a 1500 attack, 1800 defense, fairy effect monster. A monster that attacks this card returns to the owner's hand. Damage calculation is applied normally. That's a very useful monster. If you got it face down and say a strong monster attacks into it, that monster returns back to the opponent's hand. It gives you more time to incorporate Ishizu Ishtar's strategies, which are later in this profile. Next up, I run 3 copies of Kaldo. So Kaldo is a 1200 attack, 1600 defense, fairy effect monster. When this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard as a result of battle, you select 2 cards from your opponent's graveyard, add them to your opponent's deck, and the deck is then shuffled. Interesting card, to say the least, with that sort of strategy. One of the best monsters in Ishizu Ishtar's deck is Medora. We run 3 copies of Medora. So Medora is 1500 attack, 1800 defense, fairy effect monster. The attack of this card increases by 200 points for every fairy type monster in your graveyard. So we need to get quite a few resources in the graveyard to get this really strong. And it is certainly possible, and you've got a few other cards later in the profile that could help this out a bit as well. To round off the monsters, guys, Ishizu doesn't run too many monsters in a deck. We run 3 copies of the card Zolgar. So Zolgar is 1700 attack, 1200 defense. Fairy effect monster. When you tribute summon a monster by tributing this card, increase the life points of the player who controlled this card on the field by 2000 points. Only thing is we can't use that effect with Ishizu only having 4-star monsters. Next up in Ishizu Ishtar's profile is the spell cards, of course. We run 2 copies of Pot of Greed, which allows us to draw 2 cards. I've given her the additional Graceful Charity, which allows to draw 3 cards and discard 2 cards, which is an excellent strategy for her profile, is because I would play Medora, I would play Graceful Charity, and then discard 2 fairy type monsters and use Medora's effect to full advantage. Giving Medora an additional 400 attack boost could be incredibly useful in a character deck duel. Next up, I run 1 copy of Monster Reborn. Now I'd use Monster Reborn and time it where there's a lot of fairy type monsters in the graveyard and there's Medora in there. Monster Reborn Medora. Or if there's a monster on the opponent's side of the field that's either been destroyed or discarded from hand to graveyard, I would Monster Reborn that particular card. Next up, I run 2 copies of Swords of Revealing Light. That gives Ishizu a great stall option and allows you to build up options with this profile. Next up, we run 3 copies of Cestus of Dagler. So Cestus of Dagler is, you can only equip this card to a fairy type monster. Increase the attack of a monster equipped with this card by 500 points. When the monster equipped with this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points, increase your life points by an equal amount. So that's an amazing card, and it is very vital for Ishizu, I reckon, to have as much life points as possible for her strategy to fully work. Next up, I run this card at 3 as well. We run 3 copies of Dragged Down into the Grave. Dragged Down into the Grave is a spell card where both players reveal their hands. Each chooses 1 card from the opponent's hand. Then you discard the chosen cards from both players' hands. Then both players draw 1 card. That's a really good card for Ishizu. Imagine some of the plays you can do with that card. Amazing choice for Ishizu in this profile. To round off the spells, guys, this card could be really effective because there's a lot of spells in this deck. Spell Reproduction. Send 2 spell cards from your hand to the graveyard. Select 1 spell card from your graveyard and add it to your hand. I'm thinking Graceful Charity and just sending more and more cards to your graveyard to incorporate a strategy that is in the traps, which is coming up. Next up are the trap cards, and this is a really cool card Ishizu played against Kaiba in the anime. We run 3 copies of Exchange of the Spirit. Exchange of the Spirit reads, if both players have 15 or more cards in their graveyards, pay 1,000 life points. Each player swaps the cards in their graveyard with the cards in their deck, then shuffles their deck. You can only activate 1 Exchange of the Spirit per duel. We had to run 3 obviously to get Ishizu up to 40 cards. Exchange of the Spirit was played slightly different in the anime. Ishizu had a lot of cards in her graveyard. Kaiba had virtually none. She played this card and effectively had her whole deck to play, while Kaiba had only a limited amount of cards to try and win the duel with. So amazing card, Exchange of the Spirit, and quite good fun to play if you can pull it off. Next up, I run 3 copies of Null and Void. Null and Void is called Muko in the anime. You can only activate this card when an effect of drawing cards is activated. Both players see the cards drawn by the effect and send them all to the graveyard. Amazing card. Imagine what you can do with this. Say for example, you're actually in a character deck duel against Kaiba, and Kaiba discards a Blue Eyes and you've got a monster reborn. Boom. That's a great way to give yourself a huge advantage in a duel. Next up, I run another card that was quite well known in the anime that Ishizu played, and that is Blast Held by a Tribute. We play 3 copies of this, obviously. When an opponent's monster that was tribute summoned declares an attack, destroy as many face-up attack position monsters they control as possible. And if you do, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. So, in the anime duel, Kaiba played Obelisk the Tormentor. This effectively was secretly played and gave Obelisk a virus, and Kaiba was meant to attack Ishizu with Obelisk before that vision Kaiba had, and then he tribute summoned for Blue Eyes and effectively won the duel. So Blast Held by Tribute there. And to round off the profile, guys, I run 1 copy of this card here, Mikizure. Activate only when a monster is sent from the field to your graveyard. Select and destroy 1 monster on the field. You can only activate this card during the damage step. So pretty amazing card to round out the profile. Ishizu is a pretty interesting deck to play. I quite enjoyed putting it together. Make sure you smash the like button, share with a friend. Comment on the video too, guys. I always like replying back to comments. Of course, my favourite card. We talked a lot about this in the profile, and that is Medora. I like the strategy behind Medora. So this card obviously gains 200 attack for each fairy type in the graveyard. Can build it up to be quite a powerhouse and to defeat so many strong monsters. But for now, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that profile. We've got one more Battle City finalist profile coming up, which is Bakura. And then we've got the little side characters. Then we move on to other parts of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. But for now, I'll catch you later.